Hi, welcome to Reddit Tea Time. My fiancé and I are getting married soon, and my mother has been getting more and more irritating by bringing up my stepfather, who is not invited. My biological father was verbally and physically abusive, and when my mother left him when I was about 8, she began dating and married my stepfather. My stepfather does seem to love my mother and vaguely like my brothers, but he hates me. He was often very abusive to me, and on a handful of occasions, he was physically abusive. He was never a positive figure in my life, and since moving out, I have never spoken to him and avoid visiting my mother due to him. And because frankly, I resent her inaction. As such, he was not invited to our wedding, and my fiancé and I made it very clear to my mother that she's not allowed to bring him to the wedding or any of our events. However, since receiving the invitation, she has not once refrained from mentioning him when we've spoken, and she's insisted upon talking to me more often than normal. Usually, she doesn't mention him unless some major event happened, but now she'll talk about him endlessly between asking me how wedding planning is going. She has also asked me over the phone if she could take him to the wedding on 3 separate occasions, and has asked if he could attend the rehearsal dinner on 2 separate occasions. 2 days ago, my fiancé and I were invited to a family dinner to celebrate my nephew's high school and my niece's kindergarten graduation, where my mother and stepfather, in addition to my brothers, their children and wives, my cousin and her wife, my grandma, and my aunt and uncle were present. Once the kids were sent to bed, the conversation turned towards our wedding. My mother decided to express to everyone that she was terribly upset that my stepfather was not invited. And given that he was quiet now, he should be invited because it's apparently not completely impossible for him to shut up. I wasn't happy about her bringing this up in front of everyone, or at all. I snapped at her, told her that I'd been clear that I didn't want to hear it and wasn't going to change my mind, and told her that because she couldn't respect my wishes, she was no longer invited to my wedding. She started crying and my stepfather started swearing at me. She then told me that it was cruel not to let her go because I'm her son and she's done X, Y, and Z for me. I then told her that she didn't seem too concerned with all of that when my stepfather was denigrating me and telling me I wasn't worth anything as a person while I was still a child, but this didn't stop her from whining. My fiancé and I left after that. Aside from my fiancé, who very clearly supports me and has been an absolute angel this and every other time my mother's insistence has upset me, and my grandma, who thinks I could have been less acerbic, every family member has said that I was being an idiot. Should I apologize for the way I spoke to her in front of other people? Should I reinstate her invitation? How can I work through some of this animosity? Now for some comments. Wow, she has a lot of gall. She figured she could bring it up in front of family and you would have to back down. Stick to your guns. Your stepfather was horrible and your mom doesn't respect your boundaries. If any other family members feel the same, they can decline the invitation. You and your partner should celebrate your wedding with people who love and respect you. Best wishes. She made it clear that she wasn't going to respect your boundaries and she tried to publicly guilt you into changing your position in front of the family, which is far worse than what you did in my opinion. If you reinstate the invite, there is a chance she'll turn up with him anyway, and if you don't, then you'll have an even harder time maintaining a relationship with her. Do you want to go completely no contact? OP says, I don't know, I feel like I might. I've vacillated between wanting to cut off all contact with her and wanting to try and have at least a bit of a relationship with her, but I admit that I do deeply resent her. I love her too, of course, but quite frankly, I don't know if she loves me. I would think that she'd have done something if she did. My fiancé has told me that I should consider her actions here with regard to that, but that I should consider whether I want to be fretting over that ultimate decision now too. I just don't know and I feel like a bit of a dolt for not knowing. I'll never understand parents who let their partners abuse their children and somehow expect them to let it go. Your stepfather obviously is horrible, but I judge your mother to be worse. She failed you and continues to do so. Your other family members not on your side should have their invitations rescinded as well. 13 years ago, I left the mother of my son. It wasn't a decision I took lightly. I did not cheat on her or ever hurt her purposefully. I left due to a combination of personal issues on my part and the fact that I was slowly beginning to come to the realization that our relationship was toxic for me. I can elaborate on this if needed, but I'm not sure if it's relevant. I still don't know the exact reasons why, but my son completely cut contact with me when I left. This was exceptionally heartbreaking for me as we had always been very close. I never got the chance to give my side of the story. I haven't fully gotten an explanation on why he cut contact, but he has recently slipped in comments that make me believe that his mother has lied to him about what really happened between us. Implications of me being abusive, cheating, me leaving her with nothing, etc., all of which are untrue. My son recently reached out asking to reconnect, and I've been over the moon. Being a part of my son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren's lives again is amazing. It's been so amazing that I find myself terrified to lose what I've gained. He's been hot and cold, having a tendency to get upset quickly if I do or say something wrong. It's to the point where I'm walking on eggshells around him, worried about everything I say, and even canceling plans if he wants to meet up at the last minute. I know this isn't healthy, and I know it isn't sustainable or fair to my partner and the rest of my family, but I'm just so scared he's going to walk away again and I'll lose him forever. I don't know what to do. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Now for some comments. Get thee to a therapist immediately so you can get a professional opinion on how to handle this. And please keep in mind that he was abused by her just as much as you were. We're missing too much info here. You need to explain more why you left his mom. Not implying you're the bad guy, but the context is important if you want advice. And then you also need to have an awkward talk with him and find out why he's acting the way that he has. Both of you are withholding a great deal of info from each other. OP said, I've written this out a few times and deleted it because it feels almost embarrassing to share, but basically, she was abusive towards me, and it took me many years of therapy to realize that. I was always so insecure and desperate to make her happy that I bent over backwards to give her anything she wanted. She would hit me, scream at me, threaten to take our son away, demand I do things I didn't want to do, and I never even really batted an eye until the end. I had fallen into a deep depression and was struggling, and she said some things that really woke me up to see what she really thought of me, and that's when I left her. That sounds challenging, but you must provide a few examples of the things he thinks you have done wrong since reconnecting. Without that info, we can't make a reasonable assessment of the situation or of what you should do. OP said, there are certain subjects I've learned to avoid because I know they'll upset him, such as anything to do with his mother, outright discussing his and my relationship or why he cut contact, money. Sometimes if I ask about his job, he'll be happy to talk about it, while other times it'll set him off. One time he asked me to go to his daughter's dance recital a half hour before it started, and he got upset when I didn't answer and didn't speak to me for almost 2 weeks. You need to elaborate on why you ended things with his mother. Was it a lot of the same behavior? Short temper, unrealistic demands, no explanations when you do something wrong, only the silent treatment. If so, your son is carrying on the family tradition. You could try to work around this. Ask him to go to therapy with you. Ask him to write you a letter explaining his feelings about the divorce if he feels overwhelmed by discussing it. Something like that. But from your description, it doesn't sound like he'll be receptive. You need to decide for yourself whether having a relationship with him is worth this treatment. OP says, I don't think his behavior is parallel to his mother's. At least I don't want to see it that way. I don't know, this comment kind of hit me hard. He was never like this before though. He was always a sweet kid. I've told myself for years that the way she treated me didn't affect him because he turned into an amazing, caring adult with a wonderful life. But in reality, I spent literal decades having no idea that the way she was treating me was so wrong. Maybe he did see it far more than I did. Basically, you can let him know where you're at, but you have no control over anything he does. Your anxiety about potentially getting cut off again is justified, but it's unfortunately your problem. You can't fix this, and if you try too hard, it will come off as controlling. You can offer suggestions and patience and reaffirm your appreciation of him and his willingness to do this work. But he's the one who really has to do this work, and bugging him about it increases the odds of him deciding it's not worth it. Don't blame his mom. This will backfire. She's not the one who walked away. No matter how toxic she may or may not have been, she's the parent who stayed. Only stating the obvious. You need to see things through his heartbroken and jaded eyes. A good therapist will help you navigate these turbulent waters. I've been dating my girlfriend for almost 9 months now, and it's been smooth for the most part. We did have one pretty big fight a few months ago. The gist of it was that I wanted more time at my apartment because we both have pets, and I didn't like leaving mine all the time. I have a cat and she has a dog. She continually tells me that cats are independent and dogs aren't, so I should have to come to her. I also said I think it would be good to have some time apart because we were spending every single night together. She said that's not an option and that we at least have to see each other for dinner every day. I said that's fine, but I'd like some time at my apartment too. She's been making some effort trying to come to my place once a week, but she never stays for more than an hour or two, whereas we hang out at her place until usually around 10 every other night. I come over around 5 for dinner. We recently got into another smaller argument because she got upset that I hadn't asked to stay overnight in a while. I said I was worried about leaving my cat, and she brought up the independent thing again. Then I asked if she'd be willing to stay at my place some nights, and also brought up that her mom lives in the same town and loves her dog and would happily watch him overnight. She said that's not an option and that she was offended that I would even ask. I've been struggling with what to do here, and I don't know what I should do next. I thought what I was asking was fair, but it got shut down. Am I being irrational here, or should I try to talk to her about it? And if I should, what should I do if she tries to shut me down again? Any help would be appreciated, thanks. Now for some comments. She said time apart is not an option and you have to see her for dinner every day? It's hard to understand why she gets to make that decision for you. You could let her know what works for you. If your needs and preferences don't count, are you sure you want to be in this relationship? Okay, if this is the same girlfriend from this post, then you're more of an emotional crutch than her boyfriend. Why you're still with her, I have no idea. She doesn't seem to give much to you, but seems very willing to take. That's not a healthy relationship. None of your posts says she respects your contributions to her. Are you hoping that by giving, at some point she might do better? If that's the case, spoiler alert, she likely won't. She only seems to get more demanding and you seem to deserve better. I actually said, what? Out loud when I got to the part of her refusing time apart. That's a no-go. I said I was worried about leaving my cat, and she brought up the independent thing again. I'm a cat owner too. Yes, they are independent, but they miss us too. Cats need attention, love, and contact with their owners, otherwise they run the risk of becoming depressed. So her saying that you should neglect your cat just to please her clingy self is more than selfish BS. Also, you don't need to have dinner every night together. It's totally fine if you don't spend every night together. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. If you liked this story and you've made it this far, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate you spending your valuable time with me. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next Reddit story. In the meantime, please take care of yourself. Bye for now.